Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to share with you my journey in Tajweed and Qira'at. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me the tawfiq to enter Hifzul Qur'an. I actually started my journey quite late. I was already 15 when I began to start. My interest in memorizing the Qur'an started when I was about 15. That was when I was in high school. I actually went through public school and I finished high school as well. I would do Hifzul Qur'an on the side when that interest grew. Thereafter, when I completed high school, I had about 3 juz memorized. A little bit every single week I would do, and I would do that with a sheikh, my local sheikh here. Thereafter, I went to Hafiz al-Sheikh al-Imam Abdul Ghaffar Khan, one of the greatest ulama and scholars in our locality here. And he has an institution there where the students can board. So when I finished high school, I became a full-time student there. Within about a year or so, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me the tawfiq to finish the memorization of the Qur'an. Thereafter, the next year is when I started my ulum journey, the Alimiya program in South Africa. When I went to South Africa, they had a full-fledged program of Tajweed and Qira'at. So I wanted to share with you the books that I did and a little bit about the journey regarding Tajweed and Qira'at. So firstly, in the first year, the course is a 7-year course, the Alimiya program. The aspect of Tajweed and Qira'at lasts for 6 out of the 7 years. So from year 1 all the way to year 6, students are learning Tajweed and Qira'at in Darul Ulum Zakaria when I was there. In the 7th year, it's exclusively a hadith, Dawratul Hadith, only hadith is being taught in the last year. Tajweed and Qira'at are extremely important sciences. Many madaris do not have Tajweed and Qira'at faculties. Slowly, alhamdulillah, it is beginning to spread. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is causing many other Qurra to go to different madaris who do not have such faculties and programs, and then they're establishing those there. So alhamdulillah for that. I was extremely fortunate to have various shuyukh there in Darul Ulum Zakaria. I studied under Qari Rashid Ahmed Dabaliya Sahib, under Maulana Abdullah Bamji Sahib, under Qari Salih Pak Sahib, and under the great Qari al-Muqri Ayyub Ishaq, Hafidhahumullahu Ta'ala Jami'an. These were my shuyukh in Tajweed and Qira'at. In the first year, the students study what is known as kapi. Kapi is a Urdu word which means notebook. Notebook is a reference to a series of notes regarding Tajweed. It's not even an actual published book. At least when we were studying, there was no actual book. The ustadh, he would dictate this on the board. So he would write out basically the introduction to Tajweed, what is the benefit of Tajweed, what is the ruling of Tajweed, what is the necessity. Then there was a section on makharijul huruf. Then there were the most important sifat. We didn't even cover all of the sifat, like musta'aliya and things like that. Those were only covered. The tafkhim of ra, alif, lam, ikhfa, rules of nun sakin and tanween, meme, etc. Those major aspects, but not everything in detail. So the students had to memorize the kapi. It was written in Urdu. We had to memorize it in Urdu and then say it back to the ustadh. I might even have the notes somewhere. Allahu alam. We're talking about 2009. So a very long time ago. I hope I have them somewhere. Allahu alam where they may be. So anyway, we had to memorize that, and the system was that we would have alternating days. So we would have class from Monday to Saturday, and only Sunday was off. So on Monday, I forget which one was first. On one day, we would study the information, the kapi. The next day, we would recite to the ustadh, and that's how it would go. One day book, one day recitation. And then at the end of the week on Saturday, we would do tartil. We would recite slowly in a very slow cadence, and the ustad would give us a portion to memorize. We would memorize that portion. The ustad would read it slowly. We would imitate the ustad, and then on Saturday he would listen to us. So that portion could take, a few weeks to cover because not all the students could read. So he would select students at random. You'd have maybe like 20, 30 students in a class, and maybe every Saturday 5 or 10 of the students would be able to go. So then the next Saturday more students would go. And then once all of the students finished their memorized portion that they had to read in tartil, the murattal, then he would give a new portion. So every alternating day we would study and memorize copy, then we would recite the next day. Then in first year, we would have to do what's called ijra. So ijra means that whatever makharij we memorized regarding the huruf and whatever ahkam of the different ahkam of tajweed, we would have to look inside the Qur'an and state every single hukam and every single makhraj as we went from Surah Fatiha. What this means is like for alhamdu, what is the makhraj of alif? What is the makhraj of lam? What is the makhraj of ha, mim, dal? And anytime there's a hukam like lillahi, alhamdulillahi, for lillahi we would say, okay, there's a lam here, and this lam is not mufakham, it's muraqqaq. And why is that? And then we would have to share the memorized ruling regarding that. So we would do that throughout the Qur'an. We would do it for Surah Al-Fatiha, and I believe we went to the 30th juz after that. This was a long time ago. I can't fully recall exactly what we did. So that's what was covered in first year. In the second year, we advanced to actually studying a printed and published book. It was called Tasheel Tajweed by Qari Siddiq Bandwi Sahib, rahimahullah ta'ala, who was the teacher of some of the ustads there at Darul Ulum, Zakaria, rahimahullah. He's passed away a long time ago. So that book, I actually don't have it here, is also another Urdu book, but it encompassed the entire fun of tajweed. Not in daqiq detail, but it covered everything. From the makharij to the sifat to the other ahkam to wuquf, all of the necessary aspects of tajweed was covered. An alternative to that, and something that resembles that greatly, it doesn't say it in this book, but from my observation of the book itself, it looks exactly like Tasheel Tajweed, but in English. Tajweed for beginners. So we studied basically this book in Urdu. This was actually compiled by another great Qari of South Africa. He was the Muqri of Darul Ulum Azadville, Qari Ismail Ishaq. Qari Ismail Ishaq, rahimahullah ta'ala, a very, very great Qari who has trained many Qurra. And they're throughout the world right now. His students. He passed away a long time ago. When I was a student, he passed, before I entered the Qira'at faculty. Of course, I didn't study in Darul Ulum Azadville. I had a different Muqri who was teaching us. So basically, this book was studied in second year, same style. One day we would study the book, the next day we would recite to the teacher. Then back and forth. And Saturday was reserved for tartil. How would we recite to the teacher? We would recite in turns. So the entire class would be doing a shared khatm. That was the method that was employed. That's how we studied. I do understand that in various other circles, every student has to do the entire khatm. Here, not all the students do it. It's every single student is part of the khatm. However, they take turns, and for instance, a student will start. Wherever that student finishes, the next student will start. Then that student will finish, then the next student starts where he finished. So the khatam is done very quickly in that manner. So this khatam starts from year 1 and it finishes in year 3. So it takes 3 years to finish this khatam. In this period of time, the ustadh will actually gauge the quality of the recitation of the student depending on their proficiency. Actually, I'm sorry, it takes 4 years to do the Khatm, from year 1 to year 4, the end of year 4. So in this method, every other day reading to the Ustad for 4 years, we did a Khatm. After 4 years, whichever students are proficient in recitation, the Ustad will actually confer upon them the riwayat, the ijazah of riwayat Hifz. So they get the ijazah of riwayat Hifz. Inshallah, I'll show you on the B-roll the different ijazat, inshallah, that are conferred upon select students. Not all the students get them. So anyway, that was second year. In third year, what was studied is a very interesting book, a very detailed book regarding tajweed. And our teacher actually told us, Qari Salih Sahib, Hafidahullah Ta'ala wa Ra'ahu, he told us this is like the Bukhari of tajweed. The Bukhari of tajweed, because it's jam-packed with information. Now, you might be saying, okay, how is that Sahih Bukhari of tajweed when it's that thin? Well, firstly, in defense of the book, the font is very small. I didn't even show you the cover yet. Font is extremely small. And the second point is that it's extremely daqiq, and if you were to write a sharh on this, it would be extremely tawil. Very intricate points regarding tajweed. And this is none other than Fawaid Makkiya, or in Urdu we say Fawaid Makkiya, written by Qari al-Muqri Hazrat Maulana Abdul Rahman Sahib Makki. So really in-depth book. We studied this, and then we continued the same system of 1 day book, 1 day we would do the recitation to the Shaykh, and then on Saturday we would do tartil. And throughout there's rigorous imtihanat, tests, and different kind of inspections that the Ustad actually does, looking at all of the talaba, and I'll tell you why soon. I have different editions of Fawaid Makkiyah. This is the original one that we were using by Maktabatul Bushra. So I'll just show you again an example of it there. There's a nice hashia to it as well. The hashia is done by Qari Ibn Diya Muhibbuddin Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala. While we were studying, a new edition came out by Zamzam Publishers. It's the same book, but a more premium style. As you can see here, let's see here, which it has charts and different things as well. I'll show you a page of the charts. Different types of charts for the sifat. So we had to learn all of these things. We were tested greatly. Subhanallah, and I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my teachers in Tajwid and Qira'at were very strict. They were very strict in their testing. They were very strict in correcting. They're very daqiq. I don't have time to go into their style of correcting, just because I want to get through this. We still have this many more books, right? So bear with me. This is a third book that came out recently by Qadi Salim Gaibi rahimahullah ta'ala, a very great expert in qira'at. And just to let you know, I mean, Qadi Salim Gaibi is internationally well known for his works in qira'at. He is also a student, probably one of the best students of Qadi Ayyub Sahib, who is our teacher in qira'at. So he translated Fawaid Makkiyah in the English language. This is what it looks like inside. So, those of you who don't speak Urdu or read Urdu, you have access to this excellent book. And this can be purchased, I believe, on Amazon. So that's Fawaid Makkiyah. That is done in the third year. As I said, our teacher stated that this is like the Bukhari of Tajweed. Thereafter, the fourth year. The fourth year is one of the most important years in terms of the student's development in Tajweed. The reason for this is that you are allowed at the end of the fourth year to apply for Qira'atu Sab'a, right? To become a Qari of the Sab'a Qira'at. That is if there's those two conditions, and there are some hidden conditions as well. The two conditions are that you have to have a proficiency, a score in terms of your grades for the books that you studied, at least a 70. And now, you may be thinking that's so low, but it was very difficult, actually. So to get a 70 was a relatively good mark. And when it came to your recitation also had to be at a 70. So both your academic score had to be a 70, and your proficiency in recitation had to be a 70 as well. And I would say actual recitation was much more difficult to get a good mark in than the books. It was actually easier for you to get a 90 in these books, despite it being difficult and the exams being difficult. And the recitation aspect, the teachers were extremely daqiq. I'm talking about they would pick every small detail, and you would rarely see a student who gets like a 90. Extremely rare. Rarely see a student who gets 80. Most of the students got less than 70 in the recitation aspect. I'll get to that soon. But in the fourth year, same system, 1 day book, 1 day recitation to the Shaykh, Saturday reserved for tartil. We go to the very famous Manzuma al-Muqaddimat al-Jazariya. So in the fourth year, we had to memorize al-Jazariya, and we had to recite it to the Ustad. There's an example of, I didn't use this book, we actually had a very crude version actually. So this is a very beautiful edition by Dar al-Ghawthani. I'll show you the edition that we actually used if you give me a moment. This was the version that we had access to. We didn't have access to very good taba'at and editions. That now I'm able to purchase. This was basically the type of paper and the quality of the books that we used. But this is the actual book that I used that we had to memorize from and recite back to the Ustad. So the Ustad would give his sharh, and we would write down the sharh. And it was a tawil, daqiq, intricate commentary on al-Muqaddimat al-Jazariya. Again, you had to memorize it, you have to deliver it to the Ustad, you have to be able to extract all of the rulings from the poem. Al-Muqaddimat al-Jazariya, for those of you who don't know, is one of the most famous poems regarding Tajweed. And all of the rulings of Tajweed are hidden within the poem. You need to be able to extract it from the Arabic. So we were able to do that in the fourth year. A sharh that was recommended to us that we didn't have to study and was actually kind of rare to find. So when it came into the bookstore, students would just buy it out. So you'd have to be lucky to get one. Was Al-Jawahir al-Naqiyya by Qari Idhar Ahmad al-Tanawi. So Jazari is very small. You saw how thin it is, but look at the sharh. It's tawil sharh. This is the Urdu sharh for those of you who are interested. Look how small the font is. So I had classmates who would really refer to this in preparation for the examinations. They would actually highlight certain portions and memorize them by heart because they were so serious regarding Tajweed. Now, why is the fourth year so important, or why was the fourth year so important for us? As I mentioned, that is the make it or break it phase. The two conditions to get into Qira'at, you had to have a 70 in your recitation, a 70 in the book score, and there were some hidden conditions. What were the hidden conditions? You have to have a relationship with the Ustad. You have to speak to the Ustad, let them know beforehand that you're interested in this field, have a good rapport with them. If you're just a stranger and the Ustad doesn't even know you, then the Ustad will not choose you for Tajweed. That's just the way it is, or for Qira'at, I should say. So at the end of the fourth year, subhanAllah, I'm going to show you something that I didn't even know I had. So this is a book that I'm going to get to that we studied. But when I opened this book, this sheet of paper came out. And subhanAllah. I don't know if I should frame this or something. So this is the request letter that I wrote to Hazrat Maulana Qari Ayyub Sahib. This is his notes regarding my entry. SubhanAllah, should I read it? So I'll read it to you guys. So it says here, Dear Hazrat Maulana Qari Sahib, and in the top he corrected me. He says, Salam se ibtida ki jaye. You should have said Assalamu alaikum. I was a silly student. I didn't even say salam, astaghfirullah. I just said, Dear Hazrat Maulana Qari Sahib. I wrote, from the day I entered this institute, I was intrigued by the various modes of recitation, as they were foreign to me prior to my enrollment. I inquired as to where this auspicious knowledge could be attained. I was informed that Hazrat Maulana Qari Ayyub Sahib Hafidhahullah imparted the knowledge of Sab'a Qira'at in the 5th year, and only those fortunate students were chosen who displayed deep interest, initiative, aptitude, and respect. From that day, a desire and interest was ignited within me. I tried my utmost best to do well in the Tajweed classes. I was also driven by the fact that in my locality, Tajweed is not a knowledge upon which emphasis is laid. The general public are completely unaware that the different qira'at exist, although I am aware that I am unworthy of this tremendous knowledge. If I am chosen, then I will try my level best to learn, understand, and propagate this knowledge. Please accept my heartfelt request. Sincerely, your student, Nafisur Rahman. And then he wrote here some notes. He says, Pusht par dekhiye, look in the back. So he says, Aapki tilawat suni, I listened to your recitation. Talaffuz mein kuch takalluf hai. You had some overemphasis, some exaggeration in your pronunciation. He's correcting my tajweed. Inshallah, that was corrected. Honton mein zarurat se ziyada harkat hoti hai. You have too much motion in your lips. They were so intricate, they would watch your lips. And Qari Sahib used to tell us that he has such an expertise in correcting now, he doesn't have to look anymore. He knows exactly what you're doing with your mouth, how the mouth is being formed, to know if you're moving your lips too much, when you're overcompensating for a letter, when you're undercompensating, etc. So he said your lips are moving too much. Shashmai tak uski durusti ke liye mauka diya jata hai. He said, I'm going to give you a chance until midterms. Is waqt phir suna jayega. Or us waqt. He says, at that time, I'm going to listen to you again. Itminan hua to aage chalne diya jayega warna nahi. If I feel comfortable, if I feel content with your recitation at that time, I will let you go ahead. If not, that's where you stop. It's just like, the heart is racing when I was reading this. पूरी मेहनत, मुहब्बत, शौक़ और पाबंदी से पढ़ेंगे और दीगर कुतुब में भी बराबर मेहनत करेंगे और करते रहेंगे. He says you will have to study with full devotion, love, and desire, and you will be punctual in your study, and you will keep up your efforts in all the other books. In sharait ke saath dakhila manzoor kiya jata hai. If you fulfill these conditions, I will allow you to enter the qira'at. Allah Ta'ala ilm nafi' se nawazeh. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala grant beneficial knowledge. Faqat khadim al-qurra Ayyub ghufira lahu. It says, it's a signature. The servant to the qurra, Sheikh al-Muqri al-Imam Ayyub Ishaq ghufira lahu. Hafidhahullah ta'ala wa ra'a. It says here, the 30th of August, 2013. 2013, subhanAllah. I'm so fortunate, ya Allah. So this was the request that I gave at the end of the 4th year. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favored me, and Qari Sahib, this was given back to me. This same letter that I turned in the end of the 4th year, I was given back in the beginning of 5th year. He called all the students in. I think we had like 40 or 50 people who applied. Forgetting the exact number, I think anywhere from 12 to 15 got in. So alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed me to get in. Now once we got into qira'at, we no longer studied tajweed. The other students who were not chosen for qira'at, they continued to study tajweed. They studied this book by our teacher's teacher, Hazrat Maulana Qari Anis Ahmad Khan Sahib, Al-Fawaid al-Tajweediyya, which is a really great book. There's some tahqiqat in here, some deep tahqiqat. And for those who are interested in harf al-dad and how Some of the ulama of the subcontinent recite it, and that's a topic for another day. He has some tahqiqat in here for that. Spoiler alert, it's a little bit different than how I recited it just now. Now, what is studied in the first year of Qira'at? So this is fifth year, and first year of Qira'at. Qira'at lasts 2 years, and this is sab'a Qira'at, not ashar. So none other than Hirzul Amani wa Wajhu Tahani of Al-Imam al-Shatibi. So this is not the edition that we had. This is a very beautiful edition with the tahqiq of, let's see here, I think it's Sheikh Ayman Rushdi Suwaid. Dr. Sheikh Imam al-Qari Ayman Rushdi Suwaid. So this is a very beautiful edition here. Now we didn't have to memorize Hirzul Amani. So now some of the Qurra who take the long route, they're probably just really upset right now. You have to understand this was a course that was offered along with the Alimiya. So we did have a shortcut. We didn't have to memorize a Shatibiyya. We studied a Shatibiyya. And a sharh that was recommended to us that we used a lot was this, Amaniya, Sharh al-Shatibiyya, also of Sheikh al-Qari Idhar Ahmad al-Thanawi. So, yeah, I mean, we studied Shatibiyya, we understood the usuls, we had exams on it, but we did not memorize it. Some of the students actually were committing it to memory. So we studied a Shatibiyya, and then we had a whole system of how the qira'at was done. I do not have time to mention that right now. Qira'at was very different, how we used to. So we actually didn't do that same system as before. It wouldn't be like alternating days. We would study the book only until we finished a Shatibiyya. Then we studied another book called Fawaid Muhibbiyya, which I didn't bring right here, but it was another book written by our teacher's teacher, Fawaid Muhibbiyya, which had all of the usuls and principles of Qira'at Saba' in a very easy to understand format. It was written in Urdu, and we also had to memorize that book cover to cover. And we finished that in the fifth year of the Alim course, which was the first year of Qira'at. In the sixth year, the second year of Qira'at, we studied another book, which is called Aqilatu Atrab al-Qasa'id, which is also known as Ar-Ra'iyya, which is another alfiya, another 1,000-line poem of Al-Imam al-Shatibi. I'm sorry, it's not an alfiya. It's actually, let's see here, I will give you the exact amount of ash'ar, 298. So 298 lines of poetry, and we had to study it. You can see here, we finished this, I wrote Tammat bil Khair, 4:18 p.m. On February 19th, 2015. That's when we finished the book. So this is what I would do. I would write when we finished. I would write a little dua as well. So yeah, and then also in this book, I found this here. This was our examination for Ar-Ra'iyya. You can see here, Imtihan Salana As-Safu Sadis, the final exam, year 6, Qasida Ra'iyya. It was on Wednesday, the 8th of Sha'ban, 27th of May, 2015. This is the exam. Right, so this was our final exam. This is just the exam we had to write on a separate paper. So, subhanAllah, these are the books that we studied. What is Aqilat Atrab al-Qasa'id? It's basically talking about how the Qur'an is written, a little bit about the history of the Khatm and the script of the Qur'an. And so this goes into the different masahif. Those of you who know the history of the masahif Uthmaniyya, how they were sent to different bilad, and how they comprise different qira'at. So all of that information is in Ra'iyya. So those are the kitabs we studied. I did not go into the manhaj of how the qira'at was done. Maybe in another video, if I have time to explain that, it'll be a little bit intricate. This video is long enough, but I thought I would share this aspect of my journey. It was a arduous journey. It was not easy, and it took a lot of effort. And subhanallah, it's a rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to even be to even be able to sit in front of these great shuyukh, and then on top of that be accepted to do something such as qira'at, and then receiving the ijazah and the isnad. Alhamdulillah, after having recited the sab'a qira'at for 2 years, we then received the isnad, and Qari Sahib reserved the isnad after when we finished Dawratul Hadith the 7th year. At the end of that, we received our asanid. So we received a separate sanad for riwayat Hifz and a separate sanad for the sab'a qira'at bi riwayat Shatibi. So I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this huge ni'mah. I hope this was of benefit to you, those of you who are interested in learning about qira'at and tajweed, and what books are studied in some of the ma'ahid and some of the universities and madaris. This was a namudaj, a example. It doesn't have to be these kutub, but usually, it's going to be a combination of some of them. Jazariya, Shatibiya. If you're going to do Ashara, then the Durra, then, there's more kitabs after that that are studied. So, Jazakallahu khairan. Please leave a thumbs up. Please leave comments. Please, subscribe if you want more content like this. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.